recording. 3, 2, 1, and we are rolling. And Brian, welcome back to. Hey, how are you, my friend?
Good, man. Welcome back, everyone, to Backstage
Welcome
Banter.
back. That's right.
Yeah.
I hope you're all having a good year wherever this might come out soon. I don't know where you're at in the.
Yeah.
Is this number 20, Brian? Is this
No,
number 20?
not yet. This is going to be number 18, actually, because last week we talked to Paige Satter.
Paige Satter, yeah.
This is the one directly after that. So, yeah, episode 18. Can you believe that?
Wow. Man, time flies when you're having.
Sure does.
Is it fun? Are we having fun? we are having fun. This is one of the things that I really enjoy in my spare time is just bantering back and forth about nothing.
Disruptive innovations,
Disruptive. That's right. That's right. That's who we are. That's who we are. We're going to start disrupting some more stuff here upcoming. You and I.
Yeah.
I have a
Hey, but we have some really interesting conversations. So.
We do indeed, and are experimenting with Kajabi soon.
Yeah,
Kajabi new software for our new adventure in teaching stage managers.
Mm-hmm. A new way to teach stage management that's not involving a university.
You're absolutely right, and that's the teaser, folks. We are going to start our own online coaching, teaching of stage managers, internships, whatever that might be. Teaching you how to get relationships moving, but not in a 4-year university setting. It's going to be great. And we're also, Brian, the other adventure is to teach rock and roll management, which you and I are both very excited about.
I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be a really great approach to like how we're going to present it. And also because like you've said before, like no one else is teaching it. No one else is really approaching it. They're approaching other things. But it's going to be.
Yeah. I won't say nobody is.
Exciting things. So stay tuned, everyone. That's gonna be fun.
Wow, your voice just sped up really quick. We're having internet issues, I think, folks. Anyway, it's gonna be fun. There are a few, to be fair, there are a few universities that are attempting to do that, but what they're doing is they're looking at music as part of an MBA program, an online, MBA or an MA or something, but it's music production, as in producing music, not necessarily
like in a studio.
Studio, labels, artist relations, marketing, branding. That's music production. But in you and me, we're like, music production means taking a fucking band on the road and coming into a venue. And what does that mean, right? And
exactly. That's a whole different side of it.
Oh, and it's a huge industry, man, and nobody's talking about it, Right. And now we are. So I hope nobody steals our idea, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Well, if they do, I hope they do it better than we would.
That's right. But man, do we have a faculty, Brian? Yeah. Between you and me, you being a seasoned guy at a venue who stays put, and if Sting were to come to your venue, you would have to talk to Sting's production manager, who is on our faculty. John, which is great. He's director of global touring for the largest promoter entertainment company in the world, which shall remain nameless, but you all can figure it out. And who else is on our faculty? Larry Richter, Richter Entertainment Group, my promotion partner. We also run venues. We have a venue up in Northern California and in Modesto, and he's all over the place. He is Bon Jovi's tour accountant. So when we get to the tour accounting part of the agenda of the courses, you're going to be learning from Larry and some other big names. Larry's also a tour manager. He was the first tour manager for Nirvana, which is fucking amazing.
Wow.
Boy, does he have some stories about that. And as well as, Lenny Kravitz, and he's done corporate stuff like me, with the Stones, with Eric Clapton. He was out on tour with Clapton for many years as a tour manager. So I'm honored that he's joining us, along with his brother Michael, who I went to school with back in the day. And Michael has been on the road for the last 17 years as the production manager for REO Speedwagon, which is awesome. And also Chicago and Brian Setzer and a number of others. He was actually the production manager at the Coors Amphitheater when I was the operations manager when it first opened back in the day. And stayed there for a number of years, and then got on the road and has not been able to get off. Well, now he has, a little bit, but there's some stories of the road there for sure. And immense amount of other friends. Like I said, John is Sting's production manager. We've got a bunch of people that are going to help teach these courses, and I'm excited because I think it's something that I think students are wanting to do. How do you produce Coachella, Brian? Right? Like,
Yeah,
everybody's
that's a
going to these,
massive undertaking.
yeah, or the Daisy experiment, what's it called in Miami? The big EDM festivals and stuff, and they don't just miraculously appear, right? There's so
I
much
don't know.
that
I haven't
goes
heard of that
into
one.
that. Daisy, the Super Daisy. Oh man, I'm gonna embarrass myself in front of other people. Look it up,
Is
everybody,
it
because
is it a festival?
yeah, it's like the largest Super Daisy chain. No,
Electric
Daisy.
Daisy.
Thank you. You are the winner. I'm gonna put that on
Yeah.
a Jeopardy
Oh no, that's
question.
that's in Orlando. That's not in Miami.
Oh,
Yeah, I
same
remember.
thing, Brian.
No, I
Brian,
remember
same
that
thing,
we,
same
we
thing.
yeah, we just did this. It just happened like a few
Yeah,
months ago
yeah,
here. Yeah.
yeah. It's like 100,000 people or something crazy.
Yeah, massive.
So let's chat about today. What are we chatting about, Brian? You're going to surprise me with something today, which I always love the exciting surprises.
Well, it's not exactly a surprise, but whenever we were chatting with Paige last week, I thought we sort of ended at was taking risks. And like a big part of her career arc was going from one thing to another thing and not necessarily knowing where she was heading. She took a lot of risks in the positions that she took, and they weren't they definitely weren't in alignment with the job title or even like industries. Like she went from working for the orchestra to working at an art gallery, and then started working for another institution. And they were just not very. They were related by skill set, but not really related in the way I think of it in industry or by titles. And I thought that was just a really interesting topic,
Yeah,
that, taking risks. Um, how do you take a risk in our industry, in our position? What does that look like um, for either, like changing it up and maybe going after a different position, or
right.
maybe like going into a position that one thing that she mentioned was how she felt like she wasn't really ready necessarily to take a couple of the positions. Um, and like, how do you take a leap and go into a position that you feel like you may not totally be ready to take, but you take it anyways
Yeah.
because you trust your instincts and you know that you can do it, but you've never done it before. And that's a scary thing
Oh man.
for anybody. And I don't know, I just thought that would be a cool topic for us to sort of piggyback on
Oh yeah,
since
absolutely.
we brought it up last week. And I thought it was something that we could add
Oh
more
my gosh.
commentary to.
I'll tell you what, man. Just by in the last minute that I was listening to you about this, I wrote down four post-it notes of things to chat about.
Yeah,
Um, and in no particular order, but this idea of taking a risk, right? You have to be able to, in my opinion, you got to understand your own level of risk, what you're willing to do. Like if you're not a risk taker and it scares the fuck out of you and you can't sleep at night, then maybe that's not for you, right? Maybe it's
yeah,
not, but if you are a little bit and you have nothing to lose. This is what I tell my students. If you have nothing to lose, go for it. Just like I was explaining to my students and I think you recently, we had that conversation about why not, man? You got nothing to lose.
yeah,
And then there's, well, what if this happens or what if this happens? Well, then deal with that when it happens. Don't stop yourself from taking a risk based on the what ifs of things that you don't even know if you'll even get an interview for. Right? You
exactly.
don't you don't
Yeah,
need to solve all those problems. But the idea of taking the risk at first is kind of what I talk about is what is your risk level on a scale of 1 to 10? You know what I
hmm
mean? Like if
yeah,
you're all in, like I'm ready to risk at any fucking time, I don't care. Then I'm at a 9 or a 10. But if I'm like, you know what, I don't really want to go out of the house much, then you're at a 1, right? So
yeah,
assess yourself a little bit, and trust yourself. And you just got for me, and the same Paige and I have had very similar. These things pop up as you know, and I was not in the same. I always thought I was going to be a Broadway stage manager, right?
hmm
And
yeah,
now classical music and rock and roll and a medley of other things that and now online course creation. There's so much to do in this life but why not, right?
yeah,
But what I do is I have always trusted and you said it perfectly. You have instincts, so that means you got to trust your intuition, right? On what what it is that I'm taking a risk on, like assess it, right? But don't over assess it, I think, in my opinion, because if you start over assessing it, it gets complicated, and then you've
Mhm.
scared yourself right out of it because you have the imposter syndrome that you're not possibly capable of doing this gig, right?
Yeah.
For whatever
And
reason.
it's very true, and that's going to come up even after you have all the experience and you've done the things and you've had all these deep experiences and you have knowledge for it. The imposter syndrome is still going to be there regardless. So it's
Yeah,
like you might
absolutely,
as well just
absolutely.
you might as well just do it anyways
You
because
might as well just try
yeah.
it. I mean,
What else?
but again, trust your intuition, listen to it, and if it tells you like, well, there's a red flag there, pay attention to it. But don't necessarily run away. Just
Right.
address it like, oh, there's no housing included with this deal. Oh, okay, well, don't not apply because there's no housing.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
get the gig and then talk about it in the interview,
Yeah.
or something. But again, now you have to trust yourself. Now we get into
Hmm.
this idea of trust,
Yeah.
trusting our
Uh,
intuition. And
I-
and how many times have you been right when you trust your intuition and you took a chance and you were right. I mean,
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
so
I just wrote this piece on Half Hour about negotiating contracts and salaries, and one of the things that I talked about was, um, like how you can navigate a lot of those things. That's not always about, it's not always about money. There's so many ways that you can negotiate things, and since you brought up housing, there are different ways that you can negotiate, and if they can't give you housing, there might be other ways that they can you know subsidize that to where you're getting something even if it's not housing included in
right,
your
right.
offer or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
So
maybe it's an airfare. Maybe it could be a lot
mhm.
of things. It could be a lot of things that you can, negotiate. But
Yeah, there's a
get
lot
the
of different
interview
ways.
first, right? Yeah, get the interview.
Yeah,
Get the interview. Trust
yeah, exactly,
yourself.
because like you don't even know if you'll get the interview because you're going to second guess yourself, and then like I just wasted all that time and energy
Yeah,
on
yeah,
what ifs, and I didn't even have an opportunity to negotiate.
yeah.
So
Huh.
it's like, yeah, you get the job offer, and then at that point, then you make a decision after the interview
That's
process of
right.
like, is this right? Is this going to be good fit for me? And am I a good
Right.
fit?
Exactly.
So
And look at when you apply for that job, right? We were talking about references and make sure that get your resume in the pile. Get relationship build. Figure out how to get it into somebody's hands. But trust yourself. All they can say is no.
yep.
All they can say is no, and then what have you lost? Some time of investment into yourself. Well, guess what? You know how much time I've invested into the stock market, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, take some time for yourself, man, and apply
Hmm.
if it's something that you want to do. But then you have to go. Do I want to live in, let's say, Boston? Do I want, what is the winter like? I'm from California.
Yeah.
Do I like living in San Diego? Do I want to be in the middle of the country? So if I'm a freelancer, I can fly east or west, kind of, for less time, right? Getting across the country for me is a pain in the ass.
Right. Yeah, it
But
is.
a lot of people live in Nashville because it's a
Mhm.
hub.
Very true.
Things like
And
that.
the type
So
of work that you want to do.
yeah,
Like there's, we've talked about that gigs platform a lot recently.
yeah.
And I made a profile on there and they've got some really, really great gigs on there that you don't really see in other
I
places.
know.
Like,
I've been getting the email announcements.
yeah, I get emails every day of different, kinds of gigs. They have, I think what I put was production management, stage management, and there was something else like artist management or something like that. And yeah, they've had some really good gigs on there that you don't really see anywhere else.
That's correct.
Um,
That's why
and
they're
so
so
it's
unique.
exactly, and they're both touring and non-touring, a lot of touring gigs, but there's a lot of rock and roll type stuff on there, which is really great. So yeah, if anyone's looking for a place to look for jobs, gigs is a great place.
Is it
So
GIGGS
yeah,
gigs.com or is it gigs live? I don't remember
I
the
think it's
exact
like
URL.
gigs.live. Yeah, GIGGS dot live.
Right.
And
Right.
you have to create a profile and you add your experience, and it has to be approved by whoever their administrators are. And then once it's
Yeah.
approved, then you can start applying for gigs. And applying for gigs is super easy.
Super easy.
Yeah, like you just say apply for the gig, and that's pretty much it. And it just sends your profile to whoever posts the gig.
I wonder if
Um,
we should approach them as a sponsor and be like, hey, can you blast us our email out?
hey, that's not
Because
a
we
bad
do
idea.
talk about them a lot, you know.
Yeah, yeah, that wouldn't be
Um,
a bad idea actually.
yeah, yeah, but we got to
Should
get
get
our
one together.
listenership up. Everybody, hit that
Yeah,
follow button, the subscribe, the give me $1 million button, and we're all
yeah,
set.
and
Yeah,
share it too, please. If you do
yeah.
like what we're talking about, please
50
share it
50,
because
50
that's
50,
right.
Brian, just like a
Yeah.
marriage in California. Ouch.
So, wait, our marriage is not 50-50 everywhere?
No, man, you got to be a community state. It's called a community property state.
Really?
Community property. Yeah, I don't know if Florida is or not.
Yeah, I don't either.
But
I
Google that shit and
I'm gonna
find
Google it
out,
right now.
is Florida
Uh,
a community property state?
oh,
But while we're waiting,
Google
for
Google literally filled that in for me.
interesting.
Yeah,
Is it though?
it's
Boom,
listening.
boom, boom,
No,
boom.
Florida is not a
There
community
you
property
go.
state.
You can divorce and
Instead,
sue the shit each other.
yeah,
Yeah,
instead, Florida is a common law state that uses equitable distribution to divide property between spouses during a divorce.
that's correct. So if you
Huh.
work and they don't, you don't have to give up half of your $1 million house.
Wow.
In California, you do.
Hmm.
Anyway, from what I
I'm sure
heard anyway
there's
from
like
from
all
a
the bigger
friend.
economies, I'm sure like that. Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, let's get on to something else. So
yeah,
yeah,
asking
taking
for
risks. Well,
yeah.
taking risks. Don't get married, I guess, or get a prenup if you're risk aversion. I don't know how that's
Well,
gonna
if you only if you're in
tie in.
California.
Well, yeah, there's several other states like it, but
Yeah,
my cousin is a divorce attorney, so trust me, I am aware
I'm
of.
sure there are.
Oh, she's not.
Yeah. So
She's
what
not.
else did you write on your post? You said you wrote down like four
Oh yeah,
things.
I wrote this out. About taking a calculated risk, right? That's what I do. I take calculated risks. I'm like, is this the dumbest thing I've ever heard of because it's too good to be true? And do I really want to work in Iowa? No offense to Iowa. Um, no, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to really take that risk because what am I giving
Yeah,
up?
wait.
What am I giving up?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
Um,
I think that's a good way to like I think look for work. It's like where do you want to live? You know? If
has a lot to
because
do with it.
100%. It's like I don't necessarily love living in Orlando. It's not my favorite place. And so like it makes my quality of life not as great as if I live somewhere that I really, really wanted to live. So I like the work that I do, but I don't necessarily like where I'm living. So I
Right.
think it's really important for anybody who's working. If you're on tour, it's different because you go to the next city in a day
Right.
or a
Right.
few weeks, whatever. But if you're
And
doing like a long term gig, it's like, yeah, you fucking consider that. It's a lot more. It means a lot more than just like, oh, wherever. I can live anywhere, but it does really contribute to quality of life. At
yeah,
least it does for
absolutely.
me. Maybe not
Yeah.
everyone cares as much love that stuff than I do, but I if it really affects me for some reason.
Everybody is different. You've got to assess your own situation. If having not a life, I mean nightlife or an engaged community, or are you more of a like it doesn't really matter, I'm kind of keep to myself anyway. Then there you go, right? Where else, for me,
Right.
I don't know where else I'd rather live than
Hmm.
San Diego. Like I've asked myself several times, okay, I'm going to retire and sell my house and my condo and I'm going to go somewhere and live happily ever after. Where's that going to be? Right. And I thought it was Maui for a long time, but it's not anymore. But yeah, calculated risks, find out, what is important to you.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
again, if you want to be in nice weather, if you like the cold weather, it has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Where is their work? Where is their work?
Yeah, seriously.
Oh,
That's one of the reasons why I have like maybe not the only reason, but I know that it's really hard to be a professional stage manager in San Diego, at least in my experience and from what I've heard, because there's only a couple like consistent places to get work as a stage manager. It's Old Globe and it's LJP, and they have people that are like on a rolling, revolving door of people that are coming through there that they always go to. And
yeah, but you know what?
there's not a lot of corporate work there because a lot of the vendors do that. And I don't know. I've just like anytime I've considered moving back to San Diego, I always think of that. I'm like, man, it's going to be really hard to find a job there. and like consistently make money. And I feel like there's a lot of cities that are like that.
Well, if you want to stay and work in one city.
Yeah. That's
there's nothing saying
like if I was
that
going to come back.
Yeah, but there's nothing saying like, oh, I can't get a job as a professional stage manager because I'm not at the Globe or the Playhouse. Mm-hmm. Is that enough to say, well, I can live in San Diego? I mean, you got to live somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and honestly, those positions at the Globe, because I was one of them, what happens is because they lay people off because it's seasonal, even their go-tos have to find work. So sometimes, like, oh, we're not going to have you back until next summer. Well, then you got to go do something for the winter. And then what if that pans out to something and then suddenly you're not available to go back to the old Globe in the summer?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
well, that's just freelancing. But I mean,
yeah.
I feel like that was, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't interested in being a freelancer, you know?
Maybe. And that's another thing you have to ask yourself, you know, if you want a house job where you can do a gig in town where you live, then that's another whole story, right? That's another set of risks that you have to analyze.
Yeah, right.
You know, if that's what you want, then don't apply for a job in Minnesota. You know, if you don't do cold well, you know, San Diego's close to Los Angeles. You know, there's the film industry, there's movies, there's, you know, all sorts of stuff that those crossover skills, which is the other thing I wrote down, was what's important for Paige's thing was not that, you know, it was that she had those transferable skills. It didn't matter whether she really knew or not. She knew that she had the skills already that she had learned as a stage manager that could really pretty much do anything, right?
Yeah, you know? Totally.
So anyway, that's what's going on there. So I wrote, that's what's important. What is your level of risk? Imposter syndrome, same skill set, intuition, trust your intuition. And then I wrote down a quote that I wanted to share with everyone. About risk, and I don't know if that's cool. We can close it out because of course now I've got my dog woke up. She's Louise, man.
It's okay. Yeah, that's a great way to close this out.
Yeah. Okay. This is this quote I saw. I was 21 years old. So, in 1980, and I was applying for a job. I had heard that ABC TV was doing something at SeaWorld here in San Diego with Mayim Bialik, who was the star of a show called Blossom on ABC TV back then. And the name of the show was SeaWorld's Mother Earth Celebration. And I went down there and applied to be a production assistant, you know, while I was still at SDSU. And I was in the interview. Bob Laporta, the producer, I'll never forget the guy's name, was like this big corporate exec, right? And I'm looking, and he got up to go make a copy of something. And behind him on his desk was a wall poster, and it was one of those stupid motivational things that make you like go, ugh. You know, really?
Yeah.
And I wrote it down, man. I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and this is what it said. And I've lived my life with this in mind for the past, 84, 94, 14, 20. It's been 40 years. Oh my God. And I share it with my students every time. And it's got I actually have the original piece of paper that I wrote it on, and it's got 1 million pinholes in it because I have posted it on my cork board in my office at San Diego State so many times and shared it with so many students. And it says this: I sought excitement. I sought taking chances. I was all ready to fail in order to achieve something grand. And that's about taking risks.
Yeah.
Right? That's about taking risks. And I've lived by that. I sought excitement. I sought taking taking chances. I was all ready to fail in order to achieve something grand. And I hope that you all go out and achieve something grand here and with life. And Brian, we will talk again in the very near future. I know we've got a couple of exciting guests coming up.
Yes,
and the Paige Satter interview is about to come out, and we're going to talk about our other friends and family and all sorts of fun projects that we've got going. So
yeah.
So, cool. All right, everybody, take us out with a good song, Brian. What do you think?
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the end. We really appreciate that. If you liked what we're recording, give us a like and consider subscribing and sharing it with your friends and network. We would really appreciate that. Feel free to reach out to us at backstagebanterthepodcast@gmail.com to give us your ideas or tell us how you're being a disruptive innovator. All right, we'll chat with you next week.